Thank you all for tuning in. This is Selena and
Iman.
together we make you plus happy. Each week we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own terms with a dose of laughter.
Remember to like and subscribe at U Plus Happy Podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at U Plus Happy. Hey, Selena.
Girl. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Anything exciting happened this week that you want to share?
Yeah, so it was my birthday and I went to visit a friend in Atlanta. We did a lot of fun things, ate a lot of, well, I ain't gonna put her out there. I ate a lot of food. I ate all the food. And then when I got back, I went to dinner with some other friends and I had some gifts and somebody sent me something from Australia and I was so excited. Somebody smiled. And I just, I felt really grateful and blessed and it was fun. It was a good time. And I'm getting up there.
26?
Yeah. Yep. Nailed it. What about you?
This week honestly was kind of rough, but I did realize that I'm really good at self-care when I'm feeling stressed. So that was something that I realized where I was just like feeling a bit overwhelmed, feeling a bit stressed. And I was starting to like write in my journal. I worked out. I haven't had the massage yet, but I booked a massage. So yeah, and it came up in one of my like a meeting that we had at work about like self-care. And it was like, oh, I actually do, like I recognize when I'm feeling stressed or like I need something and I do prioritize it. So I was like, okay, good job, Mom. You don't just in it. It's a little realization for myself.
No, that's good. I'm proud of you and I'm glad you do that because I don't recognize it. I'm trying to get better at it and pay attention when like I need a minute.
Yeah, and I think that's like I don't know where that comes from. I'm just like I just need a break.
But yeah, that's especially in your line of work. Like you have a very career that could be really, really just damaging if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah, it can be very heavy at times.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So it's important. And anybody watching, I'm really sorry about my lighting.
It's just the sun. It's natural lighting.
But yeah, that's the whole part of our show, like taking care of yourself. So I'm glad to hear that. So who do we have on the show this week?
So this week we have Caliph Assagai on the show. Super excited. Caliph is a surfer, attorney, motivational speaker, and life coach. His passion is supporting people through their journeys to living their dreams. After 10 plus years of a career in public policy, 3 years in law school, passing the bar exam, and starting his own policy firm, Caliph found himself unhappy and unfulfilled. He went on a journey where he learned to love himself and heal himself, and came to the realization that he could create anything he wanted with his life. After doing this, he left his policy business, moved to the beach, and began coaching and speaking full-time, and surfing full-time. He is now focused on coaching and helping people get clear on their ideal lives and live a life of fulfillment. You can learn more about him at Caliph Assagai on Instagram or at caliph.coach, and we will put the links in the show notes. Without further ado, Caliph.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, this is my friend co-host, Selena.
Hey, Selena, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing real well, thanks.
Good.
So we'll hop right in. The first question was just, how did you get started with motivational speaking and coaching?
Sure, yeah. So about 2014, I came upon personal development. And I was going through a major transition in my life where basically I had come home to Sacramento after completing law school at UCLA. I had a job set up there and to work with a public defender. I was all excited about it. I came home to Sacramento to run for public office and basically left all the opportunities I built in LA there. I ended up not doing that, and I hit like really rock bottom, like not having anything to work for, not having identity to kind of create for myself. Because I was always going to be like a candidate, and then when it didn't happen, I was just, what is this? What is life? You know? And at the same time, I was having some like relationship issues, and I was dealing with some addiction that I brought back with me from LA. So I was just like in a terrible place. Like didn't know what I was doing with my life, where I was going, really who I was, and had a lot of like unhealed trauma from losing my mom and a bunch of other stuff. I basically had never done the work. I just run from all the internal work for all these years and just compensated with like moving forward in my career. So working in the Capitol, going to law school, starting my business, all that kind of stuff. And so at that time, I was looking for a new career, and I ended up applying to get a contract to represent the California Public Defenders as a lobbyist. And through getting that contract, I started to build a business for the first time. And I finally had something to kind of focus on, something to put all my energy into, and something that actually required of me a high level of performance. And so during that time, I was in a coaching program. I was listening to Les Brown and Bob Proctor every single day. And they were just saying, you can have whatever you want, you can live wherever you want, you can live whatever life you choose, as long as you change your attitude, change your thoughts, feelings, and actions, be clear about what you want. And Les Brown had this line where he said, everybody has some talent that if they give everything they have to that talent, they can have or do or be anything in the world. And for me, I was sitting back like, what is that for me? What is that for me? What is that for me? And then I realized that I was watching somebody do it. One of the reasons that I was a great candidate or whatever, I was student body president at UC Davis, and I was a senator there, and I found my kind of knack for public speaking and for communication and connection. And I just never realized that I could use that anywhere besides politics. And as soon as I realized I could, I thought to myself, okay, wait, this is way better. I can live wherever I want. I can help people directly. And literally, I'm getting paid to talk. That sounds crazy. But then as a coach, you get paid to listen, and you get paid to give advice and to kind of analyze people's thoughts and help them understand what their values are, where they're coming from, and influence their decision making towards them making a greater decision for their life. And so it was really interesting to bring all that stuff from the political background into the motivational speaking and coaching space, because it was also similar. It's like, how do you communicate? Can you connect with people? Do people trust you? Can you influence them to do the things that you want? It went from, influencing people to vote for me to influencing people to vote for their dreams, right? To go and live the life that they want to live. And so it was a rather smooth transition as far as the talents go, but switching the focus, switching my energy and my identity was something that was more challenging, right? Really embracing what success looks like as a speaker, not a politician, what success looks like as a coach, and so I think that was the biggest thing, is kind of rewriting my rules for success, because so many of them were based on accolades and awards and newspaper articles and all the stuff I had. Because when you're in politics or doing, a business owner, you get celebrated all the time. When you're just a dude trying to help kids, I don't really care, at least in the beginning. So, but yeah, so that's how I got started, and kind of a little bit of background on what that meant.
Was it hard to leave was it hard to leave the political world? Like you said, walking away from obvious accolades and, for a lack of a better term, fans, like let's not kid ourselves with politics. And you said getting people to vote for you and all that. Was it hard to walk away from that part of it?
I mean, absolutely. I think that from the time that I was, so just a little bit of background. So when I got to Davis, I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't even know politics was a thing that I could do. However, my dad had been working in politics my entire life, not his entire life. And so I grew up around senators, judges, lawyers, whatever. It was always a normal thing to me, but it wasn't something I saw myself doing. I didn't really think I was special in high school. That's the end of the sentence. I just didn't think I was special in high school. It wasn't until I got to college that I kind of discovered there was a talent there. So yeah, all of my significance as a college student started to come from being in student government, having all these friends, having all these people who were supporting me, people who would vote for me, winning elections. I was like, this shit is dope. I feel very significant. I feel very valuable. I feel like I'm doing so many great things. And I built my the 10 years, kind of from that point on, as I went through my externships or internships in the Capitol, working in DC and being in law school, It was all about that, and so walking away was having to reframe what makes my existence significant, right? Because if it's not that I'm going to be running for office, if it's not that I had a great legislative meeting or I was got a success for my client, like what is it? And so I think the hardest part was number one, kind of recognizing that it was actually over, right? Like that I really had to leave. And moving out of Sacramento to San Diego was such a big decision for me. I left my community, I left the job, all that stuff. So it was really walking away from the significance of all that was kind of difficult. But I think that's where the growth came from, right? Because we all have these different ways that we value ourselves, these different reasons we feel like we're valuable. And one of the things I talk to my clients about in coaching, especially when they want to leave their jobs, which is almost everybody, is that they feel like they're like irreplaceable, like, oh, well, if I do this, all these other people are going to be hurt by it and people are relying on me and all that. I'm like, hey, you are absolutely fucking replaceable, period. Like, it's not that you're not special, okay, but it's that they're going to find somebody else to do the job. Your life should not be dictated by other people's expectations of you, even by your commitments that you've made to people who, if you died, they would hire somebody else. And so I had to kind of take that on when I was leaving my clients, and leaving a bunch of money on the table as well. I was making a lot of money. That it was number one, everybody else is going to be okay. The most important thing is that I'm okay, and that I will at some point be able to experience this level of significance or meaning in my life. I just have to create it from a different source. So definitely a challenge, but super worth it. It's I went from being well known in Sacramento to being anonymous in San Diego, just being like that dude over there. And I needed that time, I think, to heal and to get clear on what I really wanted and what I wanted my identity to be, absent the influence and expectations of other people.
And what made that feel right, leaving? Well, first, you were going to be a doctor and then in politics. And so I feel like those are, again, those are things that are like, if you're at a party and you tell someone you're one of those things, they're like, ooh, but if you're like, I'm a coach, they're like, oh, okay. So it doesn't get the same response. Like someone like me anymore, I would be excited, but you know what I mean? The average person.
Right.
So what made that feel like even though a lot of those qualities transferred over to coaching and teaching, what made that feel right to do that over the other things?
It felt like I was being more authentic to myself. That was the first thing, because I started to hate going to the Capitol. And I represented the public defenders, and they're a great organization. They do great work. I really respect everything that they do, but they take unpopular legislative positions, right? When you're talking about poor people, when you're talking about people who have potentially harmed somebody, and you're trying to focus on rehabilitation or diversion over punishment, there's a lot of people who think that everybody that you're talking about, all these people are criminals and they're all scamming all these things, and you just get a lot of negative feedback. And also just being in the political environment, it's toxic, depending on where you are and who you are. California politics, absolutely, there's just such a culture in the Capitol building specifically. There's a lot of friendship and a lot of good things that's happened there. I wouldn't condemn the entire system, but what I will say is that politics is a dirty game, and if you're not really trying to be dirty, if you're not trying to, if you just don't care about that, right? You don't care about the process. Some people love it. They just want to be in the trenches. They want to fight everything out. They want to argue. They want to, I'm like, hey, yo, I'm trying to chill. I just recently learned that I get to chill. I recently learned that I can just be happy. I recently learned that I don't have to do things that I don't want to do. I recently learned that I can live in alignment with who I am. I'm like, the only way to do that for me is to stay the hell away from here. So even when I was in Sacramento, I made a big jump and started staying home more. I was doing meetings on the phone. I just kind of like pulled back from the Capitol building. I remember there was one time, even though I was getting the work done, I hadn't been in the Capitol in like a week, and I was like, oh my God, my life feels so much better. I'm just, out here doing my runs and doing my hikes and doing my bike rides and doing all the things I want to do, and not having to deal with 100 relationships every day. And it was good for my heart. It was good for my mind. Personally, I also have some type of social anxiety. So having to see all those people every single day as like a semi-introvert, an ambivert, I'm like, yo, it's just draining to have 50 or 75 handshakes a day as you're just walking around. Also exhilarating. It's cool to know that many people. At the same time, if you got some real shit going on, especially if motherfuckers are mad at you, then it's like, I gotta go and like deal with all these goddamn people, and I'm good. And so as soon as I felt that freedom of being like, I've lived a life outside of the capital for this much time, this many days, this many weeks, without necessarily having to engage, I realized that I felt better that way, and that was huge for me, was having that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
So was that kind of like the point, the change where you were like, okay, I need to leave politics and go into this other realm, or was there something specific that kind of gave you that push to leave politics?
Yeah. So it was honestly the fact that I realized that I had been successful at that my entire life, but I had never been successful in my own healing. I had never been successful at finding happiness. I had never been successful at cultivating joy. There's all this shit I wasn't successful at. And politics was like the only thing I had been good at ever, but it wasn't fulfilling to me. I wasn't happy. So what does that mean if you're really good at some shit that doesn't make you happy? Nothing. Right. And so the thing was, I was like, okay, so great. I'm making hella money. I got all this, getting these awards. I got all these clients. People are looking at me and going like, oh, wow, he's doing so great. But I was at home doing kind of fucking cocaine because I hated my life. And so, and it was like, okay, once I got that out of my system, or literally quit and detox, I had to look at like, okay, what do I really want this to be? And I started to engage kind of even more at that point, but engage in politics and dig in, even once I kind of got off the drugs and everything and started being a little bit more intentional about it. But I think that it was realizing that there were other ways to fill my life with joy and goodness and significance that really, really did it for me. Did that answer your question? I feel like I got a little bit lost in that response.
Yeah, no, that answers it.
Okay.
And I think you brought up a really good point of sometimes if we don't have that time to reflect, when we're chasing something that society told us is success,
Right.
and I think an indication of when it's not fulfilling, because some people might not even think about that, is when you are always looking to escape your life. So in your case, drugs, some people may use sex or relationships or partying or just something to distract them from that empty feeling, even if they are quote unquote successful by society. So I think that's a really important point that you made, is you got the accolades and awards and all these things, but you went home and tried to escape your life by with whatever your source was. But everyone's source of that is not the same. So I think it's an important thing to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess with the reflection piece, because it seems like you really did some internal, just like, okay, I need to get back to me. Has that always been, have you always been a reflective person, or is that something that you've kind of learned?
No. I'm a runner. You know what I'm saying? I never went to look inside. I think that was the first thing that happened. So I went through like a really terrible breakup with somebody I'd been a friend with. I mean, I would say a really bad relationship, a really bad breakup. And it's somebody I'd been a friend with for a long time. And I had to kind of check my patterns. How did I get myself into this position? What is it that caused me to behave this way? And how can I heal myself, right? And how can I start to feel better? And I had to learn for the very first time to really look at my behavior, look at the sources of my behavior, look at the impact of my behavior on other people, look at how it actually made me feel. Ask myself, is this really who I am? And if it is it really who I want to be? What are the things that are creating this life that I don't love? And the fact that I don't love myself in that moment, that was another big thing. And so I remember when I meditated for the first time and I had to sit down and just sit with my thoughts. And I was thinking to myself, holy shit, these are my thoughts? Like, whoa, like, this is fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, this is, okay, damn, I think that about myself. Damn, I think that about myself. And I shared with you, it was like, I'm a loser, I'm terrible, like I don't deserve love, nobody loves me, I don't even really love myself, like I feel like I haven't done anything. Like I had all this, like I was a UCLA law graduate who had been the president of my university. All these people had shown me so much love. I was very successful in politics. I had a lot of great relationships around me, but that was my dialogue. And it wasn't in alignment with how I actually showed up in the world, right? And part of that is that I was showing up in a way I think that was that allowed me to cover up who I really was. So I was using those qualities, you know, communication, connection. I'm still a nice guy. I want to make people laugh. I make people smile, that kind of stuff. But what what was behind that, you know? And that was the first time I had it kind of started to sit and go like, oh my God, behind this is so much. And this friend of mine asked me this question, and this is I was still on and off with the judge at this time, and we were working together. And I guess we had this interaction in the mayor's or the governor's office. And she said, Khalif, she said, you know, you're a good looking guy. She said, so that's the first thing that people are going to think about you. She was like, what do you want them to think second? And I was like, first of all, thanks. But also, wow, nobody's ever asked me that question. And I was like, well, then I'm funny. And she was just like, okay. Because I was very sarcastic back then. I was just like, you know, I was always talking some kind of shit, trying to make people laugh or uncomfortable, whatever. And it just made me think, like, what do I want people to think after whatever my physical appearance is? You know, I said, holy shit, I don't even know what I think, you know, of myself. And so those were some of the experiences that caused me to reflect. And, you know, later I was like, well, God, I guess I would want people to really think I'm blind, right? Like that's something or inspirational or something. But I said, but funny. I'm like, that's not, the jokes cover the pain. You know what I mean? So if I get behind the pain and actually heal myself, what would I show up as? You know, and that's what really changed me. So the reflection started, I think, only when I started losing these relationships, struggling with addiction in a major way, and really trying to change myself. And I finally sat with myself and was just like, dude, who are you? And who do you want to be? And yeah, so that's what that all started.
Yeah. And so when you started doing coaching and starting this side of it, what were the challenges?
Number one is internal value and worth. You know, I had spent 10 plus years in politics building up my internal value and worth in that area, you know, and I still do some work in public policy. I just am not in Sacramento. So I already have this like instantly you show me something and say it's a public policy thing. I'm like, oh yeah, whatever it is, I can do it. You know, I have extreme confidence in the area because I have so much training. With coaching and speaking, I just knew I was good at the things, but I didn't have that immediate sense of like, okay, I can own this. I can own my ability to make an impact here. I can own my value here. I can own, you know, the fact that I am in a vehicle for people to change their lives. You know, I couldn't own any of that in the beginning because didn't have a lot of evidence of it. All I knew is what I had done for myself. And so I think when you have 10 plus years in the game, in the area, you know, the idea of confidence and competence is just something that you're always going to walk around with because you have so much experience with results. But in this area, I'm like, well, I want to get paid to speak. I've never spoken on stage for money before, right? And how do you ask for money to do something that you're good at? I've done a ton of speeches on stage, but I've never had to ask for money about it. I've never been paid for it, you know. And then it was like, you know, the coaching. I've been coaching people my entire life, helping them get through problems and that kind of stuff. And as lawyers, you're a problem solver, and I mentored so many people and I helped them get into law school and all that kind of thing. So I had a lot of experience helping people. But when it comes to telling somebody, hey, I have the confidence to say, I can help you transform your life, it's like, well, I don't have a lot of experience with them. You know, and even those people who have gone through training, it's like they still don't have experience with that. You don't have experience actually changing somebody's life until you change somebody's life one on one. So I think it was that newness of thinking to myself, do I have the capacity to do this? I did it for myself, but does my framework work for others? You know, and that was a big challenge. And I think too, just when you think about the things that you charge for, coaching and speaking, they're so personal. You know, like I go on stage, I tell my story to either students or educators, corporations, nonprofits, and you're really, you know, sharing so much of yourself. I think putting a dollar amount on that, right? It's hard in the beginning to be like, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself and charge you like 7,500, right? You're like, oh shit, like is 1,000 enough? Like, what does it take for me to get the opportunity to not sell myself short? And how much am I actually worth this field? And so that was a really big struggle. I mean, like my first speech, I was at UC Davis. I think I got paid $200, and I was like, oh shit, I got paid. Hey, what's up? You know, it was Mariah actually, she was a student body president at the time, and she brought me to speak. And I was all excited to get paid, but then like to get to $2,000 or $1,000 speech or 2,000 or 3,500. I remember the first time I got 3,500 for a speech, I was just, I can't believe that that was an hour. I drove here, I did an hour, I left 3,500. Like, holy shit, right? And then you start to ask for like more, and then you realize that like, if you're bringing value into a room and you're impacting people's lives, and these people are going to have a 1 to 3% boost in happiness or productivity or whatever after they hear from you, or you're going to give them some tool they could use 365 days a year to improve their lives, there's a lot of value in that. But owning that and putting yourself in a place where you say, I am as good as these other people who have been here for this many years, right? I'm as good as this person who you had last year, even though I'm different from them, I bring as much value. That was the hardest part, is like kind of owning that value. And the same thing with coaching, moving my coaching prices up. I think at first, you coach for free, then you charge a few $100s, and then eventually you charge what I'm charging now. And it's, to ask somebody for a couple $1,000s a month for a few conversations in the beginning, you're like, oh wow, this seems, even though I paid it, right? It's like, oh, this seems like, a lot to ask. But then you ask, like, what is the value of life transformation? Like for me, it's a, like I live at the beach now. I surf every single day. I have multiple sources of impact and multiple sources of income. I get to speak, I get to coach, I get to do policy stuff, I get to help students at the law school. My life is amazing, right? And if I hadn't met my coach in the beginning and done her program, I would have never been opened up to this type of thing. And so, but thinking that I can be the catalyst for that change, and owning that was the hardest part. And now I'm like, yeah, for sure. I know that my stuff works. I know who should be speaking to me. I know how I can help them. And so I think it just takes a while to kind of find your niche, and then also to be able to, establish yourself in that area, and believe that you're truly an expert on helping people transform their lives in the way that you're offering to transform their lives. And I'm there now, but it took a lot of years, So that's the hardest part, is like owning your worth, owning your value. And I think that even with training, your wisdom, your life experience has to catch up to the wisdom that you have. So you can be a very wise person who's never lived out any of those things. And so how do you, can you have a life experience that matches up with it? And so my journey to this point now, where I'm kind of getting back into the coaching thing and really expanding it, um, is uh, is just fraught with, ups and downs and challenges and lessons that I can help teach to the people that I help, that I coach, so that they won't have to go through the same things I went through.
Yeah, I think you brought up a really good point, and I think this is something that we've kind of talked about before, is like you have this passion, you have this one thing that you really love, but how do you kind of capitalize on that and decide like, this is how much what I'm bringing to the table is worth? Like, how did you, I know you talked about like it gradually increasing as you go, but like, how did you kind of set that initial, like, this is what I think I'm worth, and feeling confident in that number, or that, yes, because I feel like that's a struggle for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially my first coaching client, she was from the UK. I met her on Instagram, and I think I was charging like I think I did like maybe 500 something dollars a month or whatever, and she was doing payments or whatever. So I don't even really remember what I did with that money. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't remember it at all. But I think that setting that initial price had a lot to do with what I felt like people could afford. And I think that's what a lot of us kind of go for, is like, what do I think people have? What do you think they're willing to invest in this, And I think as time goes on and you raise your prices, you look at the amount of money you've invested in things, you've invested in your growth, you've invested in coaching. Like, yeah, anybody who's trying to get on this level should be willing to invest in themselves. And it's not money that comes to me, it's money that moves through me, energy that moves through me back into that person's life. And that's like the energy exchange is really what we have going on here. And that's what I'm able to own now, and ask for more, because I'm giving more now, and I understand, the value of what I'm putting out there. And what I mean by energy exchange is like, if you go into a restaurant, or let's say a hotel, this is an even better one, and you spend a bunch of money on a hotel, and you go in there, and it's like dirty, it's not clean, and it's a little bit kind of funky, and it's not comfortable, and the pillow's not right, and all this stuff. You're like, ugh, damn, I wasted my damn money on this, right? And you can take this same money to a hotel that exceeds your expectations. And because you treated yourself through that hotel, it's not like you gave the hotel your money. It's like you treated yourself. You know, that money was just a way of expanding your experience and bringing you to a higher place. And you're so happy with it. It's truly an investment in yourself and your self care because you're happy with the experience. And I think the same thing goes for coaching. If I am able to be a catalyst for you to have a better life, if you feel better the days after we talk, you have strategies to feel better all those other days. If you get clarity on the things that you want through working with me, which is what I offer to people, is absolute clarity on their life's direction, their goals, and a step-by-step process to achieve them. If you get all that, and that ends up being more happiness for you, more fulfillment for you, more joy for you, and more money for you, more freedom for you, then you can 10x, 20x, 100x your investment in coaching. And that's money that comes back to you, right? And so I think that's where the shift happened for me, was that in helping people expand their lives, I'm giving them everything that I've got, all those struggles I went through, all those lessons I learned, all the stuff that I willed myself through. I'm teaching them how to do it more efficiently, which means they'll have the feeling that I have, the feeling that I've created a lot sooner than I got it, because they'll have my assistance. So when somebody invests in me in my coaching now, it's more so that I see that I'm just a catalyst for this person to show their worth. How much are they willing to put forward in order to transform their lives? How much energy and effort are they willing to invest in order to transform their lives? I'm just a catalyst for that, but it's not really up to me. It's really what they're doing for themselves through me. And that's really helped me to kind of be more confident in my offer and what I'm asking people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
What's been your biggest motivation that keeps you going? I mean, it sounds like you have a great life, so that would keep me going. And I'm trying to answer the question, but
I'm at the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, surfing every day. But
Yeah, it's pretty
um,
dope. Joy is my biggest motivator. I think that when I look at how I feel when I step out of the water, when I have a really good surf session and I come back to my apartment or I go wherever I want for the day, like it feels so good. And I think that there's two things about me and joy being a motivator. One is that I want more of those experiences more of the time, and moving towards a business that's full time, where I'm selling products and where I have an income that's not passive, but that's basically drawn on been able to earn without trading time for money. Like that's where my business is kind of heading. And when I create the products that I'm creating, it's to help other people build a life like mine. So it's expanding and sharing that joy with other people through these products or through my coaching, so that they can live a more joyful and fulfilled life. And the more joy I'm able to share and give out to other people, the more times they can just smile like blissfully, about their lives. I'm doing my job, but then it also gives me the opportunity to go out and just be that for myself. And so I think that, when I think about happiness and joy and fulfillment, which I think are all different sides of the same coin in some way, because they're just a feeling you know, of life operating, to say they're a feeling of like a high vibration that you experience in different ways, right? I can be happy all the time and joyful all the time, but it's enhanced when I'm surfing. It's enhanced when I'm hiking. It's enhanced in these different areas. And so, my ultimate life, which I'm building, is literally being able to be outside all the time, except for when I'm on coaching calls. But shit, I can do those outside too. So so the more joy I can bring into my life, I think that's my measurement of success. It's also my measurement of my motivator. Like I can have a big smile on my face every time I step outside if I'm doing the right things. And in fact, if I just know that those things are coming, and that's the beautiful thing about having a vision for your life, knowing where you're going, is that, right now I live in San Diego. I have a good business going on in a couple different areas, coaching, speaking, and the policy stuff, and then my consulting at the law school. I have a nice package that's put together. I'm very, very happy. But at the same time, oh my gosh, life that I can create, like the power that I have to do what it is that I want to do, to bring to fruition all my goals and my dreams, that gets me really excited. So I'm like, this is great, but it can get better. I mean, and that's such a good feeling to have it be like, this is really, really fantastic. I mean, I did it. I achieved my goal, but goddamn, there's more. That's what lights me up. So I'm just like, yo, let me just keep going. I mean, what the ultimate for me is still out there. But I'm sure once I get there, I'll be like, there's more I can do. And so, yeah, joy is my number one motivator. I want to spread joy and I want to be joy. And that's like what gets me up every day.
Yeah. It sounds like you haven't said this specifically, but just hearing your story, it sounds like at each kind of milestone, there's this like increased self-belief in what you can do. And like, I can just see the transition of just being more confident in like what you are and what you can bring to the table. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Well, let me just add to that really quickly because when I started my business as a lobbyist, I knew politics, I didn't know business. I remember telling myself, it's so crazy. I said, I've never seen myself as a business person. I've never been a business guy. I've always been a nonprofit guy. I've always been a government guy. I've never been a business guy. And I had to do so much work to bring myself into a place where I can say, no, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. This is who I am now. And and now that I know that, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities for me because I'm owning a new identity and a new set of skills and a new competency. And so I think that's where the kind of the self-belief comes from, is that once you're able to shift your self-image to say, I am this, this is what I do, this is who I am, then you can expand that. And then as you expand that, you find new competencies, new things. You say, oh my God, I can be this and I can be this. And then you realize you can be this, this, and this. You don't have to leave anything behind. You can integrate everything, and the more you integrate, the more you're like, oh, wow, this is an unending process of being able to develop new competencies, new skills, new vision, and integrate it all together. And so sometimes a milestone is just the realization that I can do more.
Yeah.
You touched on this earlier when your friend asked you, what do you want people to say about you when you're not around? And one of our questions is, so you, like I said, you started it, but now what do you hope people say about you when you're not in the room? What was the final answers?
Yeah, I mean, I think now it's, man, that guy really helped me. Whether it's through a moment, whether it's through a day, whether it's with one decision, that's how I want to be remembered. Like, oh, belief, oh yeah, that dude's super helpful. He's super encouraging. That's what I care about. I want my legacy to be that, I help people achieve their goals, and if they remember me for being positive part of their journey towards what they really want. I still want to be funny or whatnot. Like, what I mean, that's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it is, that this person really encouraged me and helped me, and I feel like my life is better because I met him. There's this saying that says like leave everybody with the impression of increase, and so sometimes it's like you'll be in an interaction with somebody that might be kind of mundane, and I'm always the person to say like, well, how can I just encourage this person or help them feel like there's more to life or they have more in this exact moment, and that's something that I really live by, is just what literally everybody I know, I hope that that's how they feel, and I help them in some way through our relationship.
Yeah. And I guess I can, I hope you don't mind me sharing, attest to this firsthand. Just a brief conversation, and Selena, I've told you as well, like I was thinking about going back to school and kind of what that route was going to be like, and having that brief conversation with you, I felt like a big weight was lifted. And I don't remember exactly how
Yeah.
you worded the question, but it was kind of like, what was your end goal? And I kind of explained like what my vision was. And you're like, well, can you get there
Right.
without going back to school? And I never
Right.
really thought about that. I was like, oh, like I can. It's, for me, it wasn't a straight line where it was just like, oh, I go to school, get this degree, I get to this goal. But you were able to kind of let me see like, hey, you can get this. It might not be as straightforward as going to school, getting a degree, and then like starting a nonprofit or a business. But yeah, I feel like just that brief conversation really opened my eyes to be like, oh, like I can do this without necessarily getting in more debt, spending another 3 years in classes. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I love that you brought that up, and thank you. And that was a wonderful conversation. I think I was driving to Monterey that day or something. So I was just in
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 5 in the morning or something. And I was in my bliss. Monterey is like my happy place. So, when as soon as I get on the road, I'm already, at a higher vibe. But one of the things that you kind of did in that discussion that a lot of people do, and I think it's really important to bring up here, is that there's people have these two ideas, right? Usually they have what's ideal, what they really want, right? The thing that they're just, oh God, if I could have that. And that's always how they say it. Oh my God, if I could have that, my life would just be so great. And you'll see their hands and their eyes, and there's just like this moment of just like, and when you see people do this, it's like they're channeling, right? They're experiencing a direct connection with source. Their heart is opening up and they're saying, oh, if I could have that, it would just be so great. Like, and it's not even, we look at prayer and we look at how people, worship, and we don't realize how natural it is to us. When somebody's feeling good, they never go, oh yeah, it's gonna be so awesome. Oh God. They're always like, oh yes, and their hands are open, their heart's open, and they're directed upwards. It doesn't matter if they're religious or not. If they're in a place of gratitude, it's wow. They're just expanding in that moment. And when I see people do that, I know that's what they really want, right? So people have like their ideal. So they have this thing that they're like really excited about. They want to keep kind of a secret. They don't really want to talk about because they don't want to jinx it. At the same time, they don't want to share it with anybody because it's so scary for them because it's so different from what they're used to that they kind of shelve it, right? So like, here's the thing I really, 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 really want. But over here, here's the thing I think I can get. And because I think I can get this thing, and it seems like I can see all the steps to getting this thing, I'm going to put my energy towards this thing I think I can get. And I'll put a little bit of energy, like 10%, maybe 15% over here, this thing I really, really want, but I don't really think I can get it. And so I'm going to put my energy towards what I think I can get, right? So they take this path of like plan B or whatever, their alternative, and they put all their energy into plan B because they think they can achieve it. And over here, they have plan A, the bliss plan, the joy plan, the fulfillment plan. And they're like, oh, yeah, I mean, I just really don't have a lot of time for that. And I'm like, well, I wonder why. Because you're so committed to your plan B because you can see your path there that you're neglecting learning, studying, becoming what you can see in plan A. And so it's like, plan A, folks. If you really want it, but you always put it second, you always put 5, 10% of your time into it because you're building this foundation in this other area. Yeah, it's never going to become what it could be because you're never giving your full self to it. So it's like when you see that thing that you want, you got to go all in. Now, going all in doesn't mean quitting your job right away and putting all your time into it. What it means is when I'm thinking about where I direct my heart energy, when I think about where I'm directing my mental energy, when I think about where I'm directing all the creative forces in my life, everything that I have left that's not taking care of survival, that's my creative forces, that's my creative energy. Where am I putting it? If I'm putting it into creating two different things, and one of them is far more important, far more exciting than the other, but one of them still feels far more stable, and I put more over here than I do over here, then you're not, first of all, you have two minds, right? You're trying to create two different things at the same time. Number two, you're simply not committed. Being committed, again, doesn't mean quitting your job or buying the business outright or whatever. It just means, where am I committing my internal energy, my internal focus, everything that I have creatively, where am I putting that focus? And so a lot of people end up thinking, oh, I tried this thing that didn't work. And, so I got to do this other thing. And the truth is, they didn't really try it. They tried like one piece of it. They did like one step. They put on like one event. And like, oh, that didn't really work. And so you didn't even put your 100% into that. You didn't even put your 100% into the first step. The first, like you gave it 27%. And you're like, oh shit, just like I knew. It confirmed for me. I'm not gonna be successful in this area. This is why I'm doing my plan B. It's like, well, yeah, what the fuck? If you were to have put 100% in that and not been so focused on this plan B, it would have gone okay. And even more than that, let's say it only was 5% better with your 100%. Do it again. 10% better, do it again until it's what you want. So that's what I really try to help people do in my coaching, is see like your plan A. That's what we're working on. We're not working on no plan Bs. We're not working on no plan Bs. We're not working on plan Cs. Plan A. And maybe there's a step that doesn't seem rational for plan A that we need to do. Like one of the first things I have people do is like create space. You think you don't have time? What's all the shit that you're doing that you hate doing? Why do you keep doing that? Right? Like let's let's not do all these things that you hate doing. You have all these things in your life that you don't want in your life, and you're like, oh, I have to keep these things in my life, and because they're important, I feel significant. They give me meaning. All these things. It's like, yeah. Well, the first thing you have to do is create space, right? And so sometimes it's not that the first thing you're going to do is you're going to launch your business the next day. That's commitment. The commitment is doing the internal work to free up the emotional space, to free up the time and the capacity to pursue what it is that you want to pursue, right? So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot more to the process, but plan A though, that's the point, right? Like there's a feeling of bliss, joy, and everything that you can get with your plan A. And when you feel that feeling, oh my God, this is it. Go for that. Don't fuck around with, I guess, going back to school or whatever.
Yeah, that's so true. And you make such a good point, because I feel like a lot of times a plan B is a lot more stable and a lot more like you can see the steps that need to be taken. Whereas plan A, the end result is better, but it's scary at the same time. So
Right.
And it's so funny because your plan B could be someone else's plan A. And they're like, dang, how'd she do that? And to you, and it only looks easy to you because you don't care. Like
Right.
it's not something important to you. So that's like
Right.
blows my mind. Like what you're describing is like your perspective of it. I mean, your perception of it or whatever is like, so that blows my mind. Like also shifting how you think about it, I think too could, I don't know if that's what you meant, but adding that part to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, because, like, for example, I have a friend who's from San Diego. He grew up in this area that I live in, Ocean Beach, and that dude never surfed in his life. He doesn't surf. He's not a surfer, and he lives here. Now he lives in Sacramento, and that's where he wants to be. What? What? Sorry. What? You grew up at the beach and you want to be at the Capitol? What? But that's the thing. Like this is what was given to him. You don't care. But for me, leaving what was in Sacramento and coming down here, living in the neighborhood he grew up in, and getting into the ocean every single day, that's my dream. He had that as a given. You have to work for that. It's like, oh, that's not my thing. I'm gonna go up here, be in this building. For me, I grew up in Sacramento. I grew up going to the Capitol every single day. I grew up around. My dad was a lobbyist, chief staff to the president pro tem. Like I said, we had a lot of, we were involved in politics. I'm like, this ain't nothing to me. Being in the Capitol, like this ain't okay. This is just like any day. But there's people who in Fresno, right, who they're like, I'm gonna go to the Capitol and change the world. Like, cool, that's what's up. They get to Sacramento, that's where they want to be. I guess maybe there's somebody who's trying to get to Fresno. I don't know. I don't know that person who's trying to get to Fresno. But you feel me? Like, yeah, I think that's a good point to make. Is it's not always it's not always like your dreams are yours, right? And they're a big deal for you, even if there's somebody else who's just given. And it's important to recognize that, because I think we do a lot of comparison too, and that's also a thing that kills dreams. When you look and say, oh, well, this person already has blah 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 blah. It seems so easy for them. It doesn't matter, just whatever you want. That's what matters. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And you, switching gears a little bit, you touched upon it earlier, but in society, a lot of times we talk about success, and like you said, it's about what you have, what you can show. But for you, what does success mean for you? Like at this point in your life, after going through everything that you've gone through?
Yeah. Success means for me living life how you want to live. Living your life on your own. That's success for me. I think Earl Nightingale says success is a progressive realization of an ideal, and I do agree with that. I think that when you're working towards something, that is successful as long as you keep moving and moving and moving and moving in that direction. That's a success, even if you haven't gotten there. Like the Olympian is not successful when they get the gold. The Olympian is successful as they work towards the Olympics, because every little piece of that is a success that they're building towards their worthy ideal. So I think that that's true. But my worthy ideal, I think everybody's worthy ideal should be love my life. How much can I love my life? How much more can I love my life? How many people can I help love their lives? And so for me, when I look at, what's successful to me is just like being able to make that my idea of success, living life my own terms, and yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Do you think it changes throughout your life? someone's definition of success, because I feel like what you described takes internal work to know what, like you're saying surfing, and I could see people surf all day on TV and they're like, I want to go surf, and then I go surf and I'm like, I hate this. So it's like,
Right.
like, so do you think it would shift, like in 10 years, do you think the things that you define as success now will be the same? Or do you think it evolves?
Yeah, I hope not. I hope that that it evolves, you know, because I think that if you had asked me through my early 20s or whatever, I've been like, success is equated to money. Even though I didn't want to get like rich, I would just think, oh, successful people have these things. Successful people live in this way, right? And then when I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, or early 30s, I should say, doing my transformation work, success for me, I remember I had to write it down at the seminar one time, and it was like, it's like public acknowledgement by other people about winning some type of award or accolade in publication in a newspaper and all this shit. You know what I mean? I was just like, and this woman was just like, yo, I say this woman, this facilitator who was part of the seminar I was at, which was Tony Robbins' seminar, and she said, Caliph, bro, there's a lot of, she didn't say bro, but she said, Caliph, there's a lot of things on this list for you to be successful. She's like, you're putting the bar so high for you to feel good about yourself. And I was like, well, she's like, you have to have an article published in the newspaper to feel successful. And I was like, yeah, I mean, right? Like that's what, when you're successful, people write about you. Like that's the thing. What I realized was like growing up, my model of success was based on my parents. My parents wanted to brag. You know, we're from a well-to-do Black community in Sacramento, and in you know, kind of the success of your kids is your success. So when your kids go to college, when your kid becomes a doctor, whatever it is you want to talk about, right? And so I realized that my model of success was like, how much evidence do I have for my parents to share to show that I am who they want me to be?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even really about how I felt about it. It wasn't about my accomplishments. It was about how much evidence can I produce to show that I am somebody who matters. I didn't ask how I achieved that success. I didn't think about how I felt. I didn't think about how I felt internally. All I talked about was like all the external things. And I'm like, oh wow. So then I was just like, okay, success is happiness, right? And I was like, okay, cool, that feels really good. And then okay, if I can just be happy. And at that time I was making a shit ton of money. And so I was like, yeah, cool, just be happy. And then I was like, okay, great, I'm successful. Then I was like, okay, nah, success is like moving towards my goals. And I have these new goals. I'll be successful when I'm a motivational speaker. And I'm doing all these things. I'm doing all these speeches and all kind of stuff. And then as much as I was successful in that area, I didn't feel successful because of the way that I set up my life was such that I was making money over there doing that, but I was actually like drained in between, and I was stressed all the time, and I'm making all these calls and sending all these emails. And I was just like, "Whoa, this doesn't actually feel good to me," right? So then I was just like, "Okay, what what is a definition of success that can allow me to use all my gifts to not be so isolated and insular about how I achieve success?" Because for me, once I became a motivational speaker, it was like I got to be the best motivational speaker in the world, and in the course of doing that, I ran myself into the ground, you know, and I realize I have so many talents and skills and abilities. And if I use them all and I have a balanced life, I'm actually happier as long as I'm contributing, you know? And so I hope that in time, as I move into this new phase, as I leave kind of the world of employment to be full-time entrepreneur, because I'm making that transition now, again, after coming back into it for the pandemic. That it's like in 10 years that success looks totally different to me. You know, it might be like success to me is, you know, supporting my kids or something like that, you know what I mean? Or serving my wife or, you know, being the best member of this community that I can possibly be, because all these other things are behind me, you know, like the self-realization, self-actualization stuff, I think is really important. But I think at a certain point you get there and you're like, all right, how else can I serve? You know, and then my success starts to be measured by my service. So I hope it changes. If it doesn't change, I haven't really grown. And that's what I'm always looking for is more growth.
Yeah. Yeah, we've never talked about on this podcast success evolving, and I think we should explore it more. But to be mindful of everyone's time, we're running out. Do you want to ask one more question, Iman, or you guys want to?
I did have one more.
Okay.
So just in regards to, well, I had two more, but I'll choose one.
I have time though. I don't know how much
I
time
have
you have.
time, so it's up to you.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. We can finish it out. I'm having fun.
Okay. So I was just curious because I know that there was one situation where I texted you and I was like, oh, he's probably sleep time difference. And you mentioned you're like, oh yeah, I wake up really early, and just wondering like what your like doing all these things, being an entrepreneur, like what your morning routine kind of looks like, and how do you get started for the day?
Yeah, for sure. Good question. You know, it's changed a lot recently, a little bit less consistent, but the two things I do every morning. So I get up about 4:30. That's the time I get up every single day. I'm not like one of those people who just like, oh, if I'm out of bed by 4:30, I didn't have a great day. You know, I'm like, whatever, 4:37 is fine with me. So you know, depending on how I feel, but I try and get up between 4:30 and 5 every day. And then the first thing I do is pray, and just it's usually like a gratitude prayer, just like thank you God for this great life, for these opportunities, you know, for all the blessings you've given to me, praying for my family, sending good vibes out to the world, that kind of stuff. And then I meditate, and I do this 12 focus phrase meditation, which really helps me to really get grounded for the day. And no matter what I wake up feeling like, if depending on how strong the feelings are, you know, I usually can get to a good place through this meditation. And then depending on where I am, you know, that's usually like 5 something that I'll be done meditating. And then from there, it's straight to working out, whatever my workout's going to be. So usually I'm either running, biking, or going surfing, or do like insanity at home or whatnot. And then after, you know, I work out, I just take some downtime. If I'm going to journal, usually I'll journal at that time. If I'm going to read, usually I'll read at that time, just like after, you know, got my morning, you know, off the right start. What's going to be, you know, in my mind for the rest of the day. But also, I listen to a lot of audiobooks or, you know, motivational kind of recordings on YouTube. And so, usually in the morning when I'm getting my breakfast and I'm doing all that kind of stuff, I just have something going into my ear, you know, something that I'm using to program my mind, have a great day and build a great life, you know. And so, those are the core elements of it. Um, I used to take cold showers, but now I just get in the ocean. So, yeah.
Okay. And that's all before like 7?
Yeah, I mean, on a good day, I've like run 4 miles, surfed, you know, did all that stuff at like 7 a.m. Mhm. Yeah,
It's
I mean,
pretty
especially in the
impressive.
summer, because thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, I like my mornings. I like to be left alone. So like the morning's a good
Mhm.
time to have nobody bother you, you
Yeah,
know.
very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any other?
No, you said you had two, Iman.
No, do you have one? Go ahead.
No,
I won't.
I don't.
I won't be stingy. Oh.
Yeah. I wanted to hear yours.
Yeah, just the last one was because we talk a lot about just who we surround ourselves with in terms of
Mhm.
success and reaching our goals. So what qualities do people have to kind of be in your inner circle?
Ambition, no. Love for God, ambition,
Mhm.
and love for others. Those are like the top three. And so like, you know, I mean, there's definitely people around me that don't necessarily have all those things, but whether the people are like really close to me, like the number one thing is that like we come back together on the fact that we believe in a higher power. It doesn't have to be God necessarily, the universe, but whatever. Like we know our prayers are going somewhere and are answered, you know. And so I think so
Mhm.
much of my life operates on faith that if you don't have that, you know, we can't vibe as much because I'm like no resistance, like I don't have any resistance to what is. I know that there's laws of the universe uh, that govern how things go, and so you know, I want to be in alignment with those laws. I want to be living with those laws, and I surround myself with people who remind me of those things, right? And when I say, and I'm not necessarily talking about Christian necessarily, like Christian, Hindu, Sikh, whatever religion, not even people who are non-religious. It's just like we know our prayers are being answered, right? We believe, and that's really important to me. Um, so that's one of the first things, and then ambition. Um, you know, people who are working towards something. It doesn't have to be something huge, right? You don't have to be trying to be like a billionaire or something like that, but they're like, I'm going in this direction, and they want to talk about their growth. They want to talk about what they're creating. They want to achieve something, and so they're always um, moving and expanding. It's really important to me because I want to talk about ideas. I want to talk about, and I want those. And then when we talk about that, I want that to be beneficial to me as well. And then the other thing is like love for people. People who want to serve. Period. I think those three things. If you love God or you embrace the power and the guidance of the universe, and you build something with your life, or you're always in a growth mindset. I said ambition and growth mindset I'll put in the same place because you might not be trying to build a business, but you're trying to improve yourself. I feel like that's important. And then again, love people, desire to serve, and really caring about other people deeply. Those are the three things that are most important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely good qualities for sure.
Those are really good qualities. So and we only said two, but the last one, I think you can answer as quick or as long as you want to, obviously. Just a piece of advice, like if for our listeners or anything, the biggest takeaway that you want to share.
I think it's get clear and then take action. A lot of people get stuck in this place of like, what should I do? What should I do? Where should I go? And I think everybody actually knows. And when they just listen to their hearts, listen to what they're downloading, I guess, from the universe, what they're hearing from God, like figure out what you want and then go for it. And I think a lot of people are worried about being wrong when they do that. They're like, well, what if I'm wrong? I'm like, well, you'll never know if you don't try. What if I waste time? But you'll never know if you don't try. And so it's understanding that you don't have to know where you're going to be in 70 years, 60 years, 50 years, 20 years, 10 years, 10, 5 years. But if you can commit to like, I'm going to try this new thing that I'm committed to for the next 90 days, next 120 days, next 150 days, like more clarity will come if you just sit back and think about what you want, all you do is think about it and you never take any action, it's going to get cloudy. You're not going to get what you need without actually moving towards that direction. I really believe the universe responds to you. You take one step towards your goal take one step towards you. You sit there thinking about your goal, changing your goal, 25 times a day. You're not moving. Even your energy is not directed in a way that's productive. So, I really encourage people to get clarity. One way they can do that actually is I have a research to get clarity guide that they can link to my Instagram, which is like a workbook that they can fill out to figure out exactly what they want. And when people get to the end of that, it's like you now know what it is. You're at least close to it. Get started taking action on that. A new way to get it is to get it. It's not just going to show up in your lap. And so I think that that's what I would like people to kind of take away. But if I can give them two things, number two would be please believe in yourself. Just like, everybody has accomplished so much. They don't think about it. They might look at me and they go, oh, well, you were a lawyer and you did all this. I'm like, whatever, you've been through some things. That stuff might have been easy for me. That might even seem uncomfortable to you. What if it was easy for me? But the hardest thing I did was learn how to love myself, which it was. Right. And so if you've learned how to love yourself, count as an accomplishment. If you've learned how to manage a toxic family or a toxic family situation and you're okay, count as an accomplishment. There's so many things that we achieve. We don't think that achievement translates to new competencies. It does, as long as you're willing to follow the steps that are necessary to accomplish your goals. And so whether that's internal or external, a lot of people's biggest thing is that they just don't believe that they can do it. And I'm just like, please develop that. And again, part of what I do in my business is help people get the clarity that they need. In my coaching business, help people get the clarity that they need and develop that confidence in themselves and develop that belief in themselves so that they can take action and go for their dreams. And like, I wish people didn't need me for that, right? I wish everybody just had that. The world has skewed our opinions of ourselves, our opinions of our abilities, our ideas about what success is, and what other people's what expectations people have for us. There's so much in people's minds that clouds them from seeing what they want and taking the action. And that's exactly why I do what I do. So
Mm.
hopefully just on those pieces of advice, those 2 pieces of advice, they can get it. But if not, that's what I would want to talk to you, to talk to people about, like, let's get you what you want. Like, it's out there. It's already promised to you. You just have to own it, be clear on it, and believe in yourself, and it's yours. It already is.
That's legit, my friend, why we started the podcast. Like, we want to redefine success for ourselves, and not just us, but for anyone who listens. It's so important because we have these distorted ideas, I think, of success, or these like just streamlined ideas of success, when there's so much more that I don't think we think about. So I love that so much. I'm glad you gave us your time and gave us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Going a little over too.
Yes.
All good.
So we'll close out now. Do you, anybody else, any other words, any other thoughts? Okay. Good. Thank you, Caliph, for sharing your time with us and inspiring our listeners to redefine success for themselves.
And thank you, listeners. We could not do this without you. Remember to hit like, comment, share this episode. Please leave a review. We always want to hear your feedback. Remember to subscribe at You Plus Happy Podcast on YouTube and on Instagram.
And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And we ask our guests to say our tagline, which is, it's a little long, we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Oh, that's easy. We'll show you our definition of success. You'll show us yours.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.